starts now.
Thanks for sticking with us here at 7:30. We start this half hour with a stark reminder, a devastating number, and a silver lining. The reminder is we are still losing too many people to drug overdoses. Here's that devastating number proving it. According to the CDC nationwide, in the 12 months ending in June, it's estimated 96,801 people died by overdose. That is 265 a day. In North Carolina, it was almost 3,200, so almost 9 lives gone every single day. 18-year-old Jamarian Roseboro was one of them. This was his mom 1 year ago, as CMPD was launching a new public awareness campaign about the dangers of fentanyl.
I hope that, like he said, it'll strike a conversation between some mothers and some sons. And I hope that it will get the parents more involved in who's around their children.
And that leads us to the silver lining. I want you to look at this chart. It comes from the CDC. And if you look here, it shows overdose deaths in North Carolina. While still historically high, if you go back several years, they are coming down, and they're coming down really fast. In fact, we've seen a 30% drop in the last year. It is the steepest decline in the nation and more than double the national decline of 14.5%. Katie Peralta Soloff is writing about this for Axios Raleigh, and we talked to her about it. We started by asking, well, the most obvious question: what's working here?
Yeah, so it's a lot. In North Carolina, as you know, is one of the states that's part of this $26 billion opioid settlement with Johnson & Johnson, as well as 3 other drug makers that Attorney General, soon to be Governor Josh Stein spearheaded, basically to come to an agreement with these drug makers that they took responsibility in the opioid epidemic in some part. So as part of the settlement, states get millions of dollars to distribute to opioid education, services, recovery, that type of thing. And this money is distributed to counties, and the counties do with it essentially whatever they need to, and in North Carolina, that looks a lot like recovery. It looks a lot like education, and of course, Narcan. If you for instance, live in Charlotte, you probably see Narcan, schools carry Narcan now. Narcan is essentially the overdose reversal medication, and it effectively has saved tons of lives.
Well, talk about the public sort of shift on that issue. I remember 10, 15 years ago covering this when it was all sort of bubbling up, and there was that debate whether we should be even making those sort of life-saving medications available for people.
Yeah, I think it's probably just the numbers bearing out the effectiveness. I think there's probably a lot of stigma attached to investment in stuff like syringe services and recovery efforts, and even drugs like Narcan. But at the end of the day, Narcan is something that is saving lives.
Is there confidence that this trend line is going to continue?
I don't see a reason why not. This investment is continuing in North Carolina. It's something that the State Health and Human Services Department is deeply committed to. And of course, now that Josh Stein is going to become governor, it's something that will remain a priority for his administration. So I don't see these efforts slowing in a state like North Carolina. But who knows? We'll see.
Right. Is there some recognition too, though, that as we use Narcan more, we're saving lives, but that doesn't necessarily mean usage is down. So we still got to treat that side of it, right? We still got to get people access to care to make them better. And that can be a challenge for a lot of people, the cost of it, even just the availability, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Education is a gigantic part of this. In places like Charlotte, for instance, like you see a lot of investment into the police department, educating people in the community on the harmful effects of fentanyl, which is really scary because it's found kind of everywhere now, and that's what's really scary. It's a highly potent drug. It's very cheap to make. So drug makers or wherever these illicit materials are coming from are lacing drugs with fentanyl to kind of cheapen the product and eke out a higher profit effectively.
You can read more of Katie's work on this by going to axios.com/local/Raleigh. Now, you heard Katie mention the opioid settlement money. It's being distributed to states and then to counties who decide how to use it. Mecklenburg County was doing just that last night. Overall, the county is going to receive $73 million. It's going to come over 18 years. So far, the county's received about $29 million of that. Now, commissioners last night were determining what to do with $5.5 million coming their way next. Here's what was approved. We can show it to you, walk you through it here. $400,000 going to be spent on that overdose reversal drug naloxone, Narcan. $2.5 million will go to connect those who have survived an overdose to resources and support. $2 million is going to be spent on addiction treatment programs at the Mecklenburg County Jail. And then $600,000 is going to go to reentry programs. It'll fund health care and support services to those getting out of prison. Commissioners, while supportive of the plan, did ask a lot about accountability.
You know, doing nothing is just not an option. You know, that's not going to be an option. And I certainly don't want to let the perfect be the enemy of the good at this stage. With that being said, what are we going to do to respond to, Dina, to some of the concerns that were lifted up with respect to our tracking, our data, and the ability to measure?
You know, 7,900 Narcan kits have been distributed in the community. They've been distributed, but do we know that they've done the job that we need them to do? Like, that we're investing good money?
There has been a decline in overdose deaths, and that's the way it's measured. So that's the link there. So that's one of the variables that impacts that metric, is having available Narcan in the community, having treatment available.
Now, county leaders say, though, they will update a public-facing dashboard to better track the impact these programs